Okay, Zoomers. Hey guys, welcome to our Friday talk show podcast thing. My name's Robert and this is Mac, and we're doing this because we believe that the Bible is relevant and meaningful to what's going on in our lives and in the world around us, and most importantly, it's relevant to what's going on in your life. And so we want this to be a thing where we talk about life and real life stuff and look at it through the lens of Scripture. And so that's what we're doing here this morning.
Yeah, so I'll start us off with our first question. Rob, I just want to ask, how has this COVID-19 stuff, how has this changed the pace of your life?
Ooh, yeah. Slowed it way, way down. I'm sure a lot of you guys have felt this. School and jobs and all that kind of stuff, feels like somebody just kind of pumped the brakes on life. And we're home a lot more, and there's less commitments. I mean, my wife and I are still both working, but even when we're working, it's feels like it's paced differently, and our evening commitments aren't really happening in the same way, and we're home so much more. And so it's really slowed everything down. How about for you?
Yeah, for real. I mean, I am still working and stuff, so I am clocking in a lot more hours than I usually do. But school, no school. I'm just writing papers, and it's definitely a very different pace of going to classes every week or seeing people doing meetings. All of that stuff is over FaceTime or Zoom right now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely feel that slowing portion.
Yeah. So how is that going to relate? I mean, I assume that you guys are probably feeling that same thing of the slowdown and being home a lot more. How does this kind of thing relate to us following Jesus?
So I think a good place to go in Scripture, just to any season, any time that we're encountering something, this verse is a really good snippet. So I'll go ahead and read it to you. It says, "Look carefully then how you walk," and walking being an analogy for how you live in the life that you conduct here on earth. So look carefully how you walk, not as unwise but as wise, making the best use of the time, because the days are evil. Therefore do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is. And so I can't tell you what God's will for this season is, except for the fact that we should know and draw closer to Him through it. Yeah. And so this we can think is just an opportunity to steward our time. And it sounds like we've been given a lot of time to just rest and slow down. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, for me, probably the biggest thing that I've learned is in regards to pace and pace of life is the slowdown. I think actually showed me what it looked like to be going too fast beforehand, and it was almost like an addict coming off of something. Those first couple days especially, it was oh, I need to do something. What's going on? Why is there nothing happening? And it felt really hard to slow down, and it made me realize wow, I was going too fast, too hard. I was in a hurry and worried about things. And so we can just build things up in our head this is so important, and this is so important, and this is so important, and that's why we have to do all of these things. But I think in Matthew, I think this verse really helps ease that in me and help me kind of come back to grounding here. It's Matthew 6, verse 25. It's in the Sermon on the Mount. He says, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes?" And then he goes on to say, look, the birds are taken care of. They never worry about anything. The grass grows and is taken care of. It never worries about anything. Well, life is more than just the worrying about what's going to come, right? We have to have faith and confidence in God that He's going to provide for us. And man, that just helps me not be in such a hurry.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. This time that we're living in, we're going up in a season where I have to respond to emails, or I feel the need. I probably don't have to, but for school, for work, or text messages, I'm always interacting with people or thinking about something. So whether I'm clocking in at that time, I realize oh, I'm checking my emails real quick, or oh, I can respond to that text, or send that out, or plan this thing right here. We've definitely we don't have good borders of I'm working and I'm not working. And I think we see that a lot in the ways that we interact with our relationships, or I can't tell you how many times I've checked my email on a date with Tori or something, and like, oh, geez, that's bad.
Yeah.
But like,
For sure.
a lot of us do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing that like kind of like strikes me about like just looking at the way Jesus lived his life is he was intentional about taking time during like his crazy ministry. Like he had 3 years of ministry,
Go.
and he's God. So like those 3 years are probably pretty important.
Yeah.
And so like he's got limited time, but he makes a point about going away and spending time with the Father. You see that he does it right before the crucifixion, like he does it in the Garden of Gethsemane. And like that's crazy. Like that's a super intentional time. But also it says in the very beginning of Luke, as Jesus is just starting out his ministry, it says, but he would often withdraw to desolate places to pray.
Yeah.
And so I think if we can learn anything from that, it's that it's important and vital that we get away and we spend time with God.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between just stopping. Like this season's making us stop, and it's pressing the brakes on interaction with friends and stuff like that. And it's changing a lot of our pace of life. But I think that's the opportunity, like to go back to that Ephesians 5 passage of like, what do we have? What's our option right now? What is the will of God right now? I think it's honestly to take this time to establish rhythms in our life of getting away and resting in a way that is important. Yeah. And I think truly the only thing that's going to give you true rest to your souls is going to be spending time with your Creator, spending time with Jesus. And so I guess like what are some ways that you can see that being like establishing good rhythms, or like how are you living into that?
Totally. Well, we tell our students all the time, right? You guys have heard this from your small group leaders and stuff probably over and over again, how important it is to be in the Word, how important it is to spend time in prayer. And I think the most heard excuse that I've given myself and that I've heard from other people is, I just don't have time. Like, I wake up just a few minutes before I got to be out the door to go to school, and then sports practice, and then I come home and I have homework until I eat dinner, then hang out with my family, and then go to bed. Yeah. And like that's every day. And so I don't have time. And now God has swiftly said, you have time. Here's all this time. And us not doing it just really shows where our priorities are, right? It shows that it was never really about how much time we had. It was about the fact that either we wanted it or we didn't. And so this is, I think, our opportunity to put our money where our mouth is and say, if we want to follow Jesus, if we want to be disciples of him, that it's time to get in the habit of getting in the Word every day.
Yeah, for real.
And starting there and finding a place to be with God, a time to be with God every day. And just that alone, I think, would be such a game changer if during this season that is really hard and scary, and it's like, man, this is everything that's going on in the world is so sad. But what if we came out of this with habits of like spiritual discipline and spiritual growth that we never had before?
Yeah, I mean, like, you can read the Bible in 90 days. In high school, I like committed to do that, and I did it, and it was rough. Like, you had to read like 15 chapters a night, but like committed to that time, and that was during sports, that was during school, that was during volunteering at church. Like, if you have a fire under yourself to learn more about God, he's not the one keeping you from growing closer to him. And so I think like that's convicting to me even now. But we can definitely be taking advantage of this time and reading.
Yeah.
Something I've been doing is, remember like when 2020 started and like we had all this mission vision launch at church, like that 20 20
20 minutes a day
packet.
Pray for 20 people. Yeah.
I've been really living into that, and like today I was reading Jonah 1 and reading about how he was fleeing from God and all that kind of stuff. And man, it's so cool to work through that and know that there's so many other people within this empty church. So many people at their homes reading through the same plan. Yeah. Like God is moving in their hearts through the same scripture.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good like outlet and a tool. If you don't have one, I'm pretty sure there's one online, right?
Oh yeah, the reading plans and stuff for sure are online. And guys, we love you and care about you, and we miss you in times like this. But we hope that these Friday talks can be helpful in your discipleship and your growth towards Jesus. And so our challenge is that you would use the spare time that you have, if you've found yourself with any, wink, wink, and challenge yourself to get in the Word every day, even if it's just for a little bit, and see the difference that it makes in your life as you follow Jesus. So it's been good hanging out with you guys. It's been fun. Okay, Zoomers. We'll see you soon.
Take care, guys.
I've been on the way now. We've been on the stage in our playground. Not enough we change on the way now.